Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and welcome to The Hypnotist. And today, I'm not going to be your hypnotist. I have a guest hypnotist joining me to have a chat about hypnosis and then do a little bit of hypnosis for you. So welcome to the show, Kevin Moran.
Hi, thank you for inviting me today, Adam.
Great to have you on the show. We met very briefly at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference. I think you flew all the way from the States to Ireland. For those that don't know you, give us a bit of an intro to who you are and the type of hypnosis you like to do.
Yes, so my name is Kevin. I am a hypnotherapist and coach who works with general issues, sexual issues, especially sexual trauma, anxiety in the bedroom. I also work with adults who are dealing with multiple issues through emotional wellness coaching that involves a program over multiple sessions involving using specialist techniques such as the bunny talk process, which was taught to me by Claudia Ricard. I also offer extended coaching sessions, which not everyone does, where one can see their hypnotherapist every 6 months, not unlike a dental cleaning, because we get dental cleanings every 6 months for our long-term oral health. So why not the same for hypnosis and mental health?
No, I think it's a great idea, and I think people underestimate just like how life can take its toll. And I think, in my experience, a lot of people will see a hypnotherapist if they've got a very clearly defined problem, or if it's reached the point of really affecting the quality of their life. Maybe it is, some kind of trauma or intrusive thoughts, or it might be an issue like weight loss. But I think actually there is another side to that coin, which is if it can help deal with a problem, surely it can help just enhance the quality of your life. You don't need a problem to benefit from hypnotherapy. What was it that led you to become aware of or interested in hypnotherapy? Was it something specific, or you just became curious about it?
Well, I had a curiosity with hypnosis from an early age, but the first real experience that I had with hypnosis and hypnotherapy was when I was 12 years old. I was sitting on the grass in a town square, and there were these two girls, didn't know them, but they were playing around with trance and hypnosis. I'm not sure if they knew what that was at the time, but they invited me over and did some work on me that led me into a very relaxed state. And there were hornets nearby in the grass. I had a fear of bees at the time. And while in this deeply relaxed trance state, I felt hornets crawling across my hands, and I didn't react.
Mm.
And the girl who was doing the hypnotizing was doing hypnotherapy and didn't even know it, because after that, I no longer had a fear of bees. And of course, the neural pathways get rerouted, and the phobia disappeared. And from that point on, I became very interested in hypnosis and hypnotherapy in general. As I was a teenager and as I grew older, well into adulthood, did dabble in hypnosis, mostly did it through just recreational, having fun with hypnosis with other people. But it wasn't until I was at a low point in my life, about 2.5 years ago, where I decided that going into the new year, I was going to change my life, do new things. And one of those things was to take practical hypnosis training,
Mm.
because everything up to that point had been self-taught. And I found Mike Mandel, appeared on page one in a Google search. And I felt the best way to go was to do in-person training. So I did his 5-day in-person training in Toronto, had an amazing experience, met another attendee who gave me a free session in the hotel lobby. I went home. People said I was a completely different person. I felt amazing. Gave me a new sense of confidence, and that inspired me to pursue hypnotherapy after that. And since then, I've taken many trainings, learned from a lot of different people, very diligently practiced, and did a lot of free sessions. And then I launched my practice.
Amazing. And for those listening that aren't familiar with Mike Mandel, he and a guy called Chris have an excellent podcast called Brain Software. I think Mike is a fantastic trainer, a very nice guy as well. So yeah, check out Brain Software. If you're listening to this podcast, you like hypnosis, check out Brain Software by Mike Mandel. So you did the training and you thought, okay, I could turn this into an income stream, and I think the best income streams are that you make money while making the world a better place. You're helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
And was that a almost like the reason for the training, or was it you wanted to get trained and then you thought, well, now I'm trained, I may as well, have this kind of clinic? Which, was it the chicken or the egg that came first for you?
I would say the chicken first. I wanted to just learn. I was a pure learner. I wanted to learn more hypnosis. The thought of maybe turning it into a career someday did cross my mind, but I felt that learning was what I loved most about it. And I would say in the first 2 years of my journey, and keeping in mind I also was working a day job, I probably put in the same amount of time and energy into learning hypnosis as taking a full course load of college. I
Mm.
really pushed the limits of what I could handle, but that's how much I love hypnosis and wanted to learn and become as good as I possibly could. And I just loved it so much that eventually, sooner or later, that love of pure learning would cross over into wanting to do it professionally and help people. And I
Mm.
still love learning. It's a never ending journey, but it's nice to be able to do both at this point.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible distinction when you're learning something that you want to learn as opposed to learning because you have to learn it. And I remember, at school, I knew I was quite smart, but never really wanted to learn what I was being taught. And I even did a degree in psychology, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. When I did my postgraduate stuff in hypnosis, suddenly I was getting distinctions and very high grades because it was coming from a place of passion and enthusiasm as opposed to, oh, I have to learn this kind of stuff to pass an exam. It's a very different energy. So it's great talking to people that have that kind of passion for learning, because it is this kind of moving space. You can't, do a few modules and then it. There's always this rabbit hole of, well, I can learn this kind of approach and that kind of approach. What are the modalities or let's say the branches within hypnotherapy that particularly captured your imagination?
Well, I would have to say it all started with Mike. That was my foundational learning. And I knew that as a learner, it was like the building of a house.
Mm.
And the work with Mike was the concrete foundation that the rest of the house would be built on. And the rest of that house and all the furniture in it would be what I would gain from going out into the world and learning from other practitioners, whether it was through hypnosis or taking hypnotherapy workshops. And it was always about finding what appealed to me most as a learner and a practitioner, because there is so much out there to learn in so many different ways of doing the same stuff. The technique, for example, that we use is only half the equation.
Mhm.
The other half is our own personality. And we both know Carl Smith. He talks about the real niche being our personality. So when one person is considering learning something in hypnosis and hypnotherapy, the stuff that works best for us is the stuff that fits us like a glove. If it doesn't, it just seems clunky and weird when that person
Sure.
is using it. So it was always about being, I suppose you could say, the smart shopper. Does this resonate with me? Is this a hypnotherapy workshop that I want to take? And that's why I would learn with Kaz Riley and Richard Hill and Timothy September in his Enter the Loop. Recently, I've trained with Claudia Ricard, and her bunny talk process has really resonated with me and has become the cornerstone of my extended emotional wellness program. So
Mm.
it's really about, and often when we take these trainings, we get to experience them on the receiving end. And when we do, we're like, oh my God, this is perfect for me. And it's those ones that really resonate with us, where we're going to actually invest the time being as good as we can possibly be and have that be one of our key tools for helping others.
Yeah, you kind of connect with it, and listeners to the show might recall that we had Claudia on as another guest hypnotist, and I saw so many parallels between Claudia's bunny talk process and Bob Burns' the Swan, kind of protocol, because it's an evolved version of just idiomotor responses, and to some extent parts therapy. It's, a very powerful, kind of way of communicating with the unconscious to facilitate change. And, it's great that you've kind of connected with that. I think for me, it was parts therapy and metaphor that really kind of was my thing that really kind of resonated. And the great thing is that you can know about all these kind of modalities and protocols, but you only have to find two or three that really kind of resonate. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a Bruce Lee quote, which is something like, I don't fear the person that's practiced 10,000 kicks. I fear the person that's practiced one kick 10,000 times. And there is this almost kind of element of ability that comes from finding those tiny distinctions in specializing in something, rather than, I think, in all honesty, a mistake that some hypnotherapists make is they dabble in lots and lots and lots of different kind of modalities and protocols and don't really become exceptional in any one of them.
Right.
Earlier on, you mentioned that, kind of sexual trauma and kind of sexual issues was something that I imagine similar to the modalities that resonated with you. That was a topic or an issue that resonated with you. What was there something in particular that kind of made that more appealing than, let's say, what a lot of people gravitate towards, which is kind of like addictions and habits and weight loss and those kind of things? Was there some reason that became or almost an area of interest more than other areas for you?
Mm-hmm. Yes. The anything involving recreational hypnosis notwithstanding, I had some own personal traumas of my own as an adult, and I had an experience while training with Kaz that really made me realize what I could do with these tools to help people like myself. And it's also an issue that is quite common, but rarely talked about. And that is when men are sexually assaulted by women. Nobody talks about that, but it does happen. And often we can use the same tools, and it can manifest itself in the same ways: anxiety, um, pretty much any other panic attacks, and shame and guilt. The sort of stuff that we help with women can be used to help men, because not only do we is it the same kind of trauma, we have even more things stacked against us when it does happen after the fact, because we live in a culture that, oh no, this doesn't happen to men. Maybe in prison, maybe in the gay community, but it doesn't. Who said that that women can act badly. And you and I know that's total BS. It does happen. So men will often have to deal with not only the shame and the guilt, but either the fact that they are not believed, or the perception that they will not be believed. Both with the cultural aspect, the belief that we have to be the alpha male, the masculine. Doesn't happen to men, but it does. Doesn't have to involve violence. It can involve alcohol, drugs, coercion, manipulation. And it's what I do. I work with men who have been through the same situation, and I work with women who have been through the same situation. But people need to understand that this issue extends across all genders.
Mm. And I think you're absolutely right. There is a taboo connected with any kind of sexual kind of issues, but in particular, almost like the narrative, in the same way that a lot of men that are on the receiving end of domestic violence would never talk about that because they would be deemed to be, well, they're weak or they're not strong. Like there's lots of judgment and perceptions connected to these things. So I think because of male stereotypes and kind of societal norms, there is actually a penalty almost for kind of talking up about these kind of things, which I imagine for a lot of men, that would mean that they actually hold a lot of, because of the shame and perhaps fear of judgment, there's a lot of stuff kept inside. And it's great that you specialize in this area because it's a safe space for men to kind of communicate with that. My perception of a lot of sexual assault in particular is that it's rarely about sex and desire and more about power. What are the trends or the, let's say, realizations or evaluations that you've come to working with men in this area that might surprise people that don't really, have too much knowledge about what happens in this area?
Well, it is, you are correct. It is about power rather than sex. And of course, we have women who want to assert that power over a man. It happens. And men, as I mentioned earlier with the culture, men are supposed to be the one in power. That's the way our culture says it has to be. So when a man finds himself not in the position of power, he internalizes that sense of shame, guilt, like there's something wrong with me. And there isn't. It doesn't make you any less of a man because this is the sort of thing that can happen literally to anybody.
Yeah, I also think there's a huge amount of double standards in terms of what's okay. Because if, here in the UK, occasionally there's stories of a female teacher in a sexual relationship with a male student. And quite often, if you look at the social media comments on stories like that, it's like, hey, lucky guy, that's a schoolboy's fantasy. Whereas when the roles are reversed and it's kind of like, the narrative isn't sexy female teacher and male student, it's kind of creepy male teacher and vulnerable female student. Exactly the same power dynamics are taking place there.
Yes.
But when a man does it, it's kind of like, okay, what a creepy predator. And when a female does it, it's kind of like, well, lucky male student. There's a huge amount of double standards. There was a video going around on social media of a fairly attractive woman, in all honesty, forcing like a toddler, we're talking like 2-3 years old, to kiss. Okay. Now you could see this child did not want to do that. But kind of like grabbing the head, forcing a kiss. And I just think there would be a huge backlash if that was a man doing that to like a 3-year-old girl, whereas actually, a female doing that. And it's kind of like, the overall narrative is lucky little fella, kind of narrative. Like, do you see these kind of extreme double standards, which don't treat, kind of female power dynamics differently to male power dynamics?
Absolutely. And in the United States, there is a documented case where a female teacher began a relationship with a 13-year-old student. And it was national news, widely publicized. You may or may not have heard of that. And they did wind up marrying each other. But at the time, it really started a discussion of, had that been a male teacher sleeping with a 13-year-old student who was a girl, it would have had a completely different response, not just from society, but also from the authorities. A lot of people's like, oh, well, lucky him. He got to sleep with this hot blonde teacher, and it just raised a lot of questions about
Yeah.
the double standard.
It's a huge amount of double standards because I think there is this kind of, and I think it's a good thing. I think, for me, I would describe myself as a feminist in the sense that I believe that, I believe in equal rights and equal opportunities. But, it has to go both ways. It should be like equal standards in terms of, what's okay in terms of crime and criminal and kind of abuse of power, which it is in a lot of cases. That should also be evenly spread. What are the surprising things that you've encountered working with clients that most people wouldn't even be aware of?
Well, I have met those who have met people who believed their story initially, but then didn't believe them solely because they didn't go to the police or file a lawsuit. Like, taking them to court was the X factor in whether they were telling the truth or not.
Okay.
And for the record, those who lie about being sexually assaulted, it dehumanizes those who have actually been through that trauma. It pisses me off almost as much as with the perpetrators. And yeah, I've met people who basically said that it's like, oh, did you go to the police after it happened? Or have you filed a lawsuit since then? Well, no, I haven't, because if I go to court, it's he said, she said. So who would believe me? And it's like, oh, well, if you didn't go to the police and you didn't file a civil lawsuit, even in the face of probably not being believed or anything coming of it, you must be a liar. And it's just another reason why a man wouldn't do that. And we face a lot of the same challenges that women have in the aftermath of traumas like that.
And I think the conviction rates of something like rape, where it's male on female, even if there is kind of, let's say, genetic evidence, like, the evidence of penetration and kind of sperm and that kind of stuff, is still incredibly low. But just the biology of males and females means it's much more difficult to prove. And again, it comes down to this kind of perception of consent. I think if a woman says that she was sexually assaulted, that's more likely to believe than if a man was to say the same thing, because I think the narrative is that, well, all men want sex and they're the initiators. So if it's happening the other way around, I think a lot of people just assume that, it's either untrue or something, or it's not of the same severity. It's somehow, kind of diluted in its significance. What are some of the repercussions of someone that is on the receiving end of sexual assault by a woman? You've mentioned kind of guilt and shame. Does it affect future relationships? What are some of the implications of that?
I can answer that. And one other thing that I wanted to mention, based on something you just said a second ago, is I had a case where a man did go to the police after being assaulted by a woman. And when talking to the police, they asked him, well, did you have an erection when it happened? And he said yes. And they were like, oh, well, then it wasn't rape. For that reason alone. But those who are well informed on these issues knows that an erection can be involuntary. just as female arousal can be involuntary, even when they're being assaulted. Doesn't mean they're enjoying it. It is a physiological response that happens automatically with the body. So, to your other question, some of the repercussions for men who have been through these experiences. Some of the most common ones that I see are often through bedroom anxiety. They sometimes have performance issues. They have social anxiety. They have panic attacks. And some of those things can happen outside of the bedroom, but a lot of it can happen inside of the bedroom, and it can have a detrimental effect on relationships. I've had men who were very, if their partner decided to take the lead and be assertive in initiating physical contact to have sex, it would trigger them. And they would start having anxiety, and they're like, no, I'm not comfortable with this. So it goes back to the power dynamic sometimes. They understand consciously that their lover is just expressing what they want in a healthy fashion, but it doesn't matter because unconsciously they're being triggered by this trauma. So you have anxiety, there's panic attacks, performance issues in bed, and it's not the fault of the partner. It's the fault of the past trauma that this person has experienced. And if we can help them overcome these triggers and work with them, then they can have a healthy relationship and a healthy sex life with their partner by overcoming these issues that they have in the present day stemming from the past.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that a good sex life is so important to any kind of relationship, and anything that kind of impedes that, potentially means that good relationships may not work out because, of something that had nothing to do with that relationship, but may have had something to do with a previous kind of traumatic event. So, again, if anyone's listening to this and they have, been on the receiving end of something like that, check out, Kevin, and particularly if it's, if you're a man listening to this, Kevin is the person to go to. If people are listening and they wanted to kind of learn more about you or reach out, is there a preferred way that they can kind of get in contact with you?
Yes, the best way to get in contact with me would be via my website, acadianrockhypnosis.com.
We'll make sure there's a link in the description, so you don't have to remember that if you're listening. Just check out the description, and you can have a look at that. And Kevin, is there a hypnosis experience that you're able to share with us that might be useful for anyone listening to this?
Yeah, I can would say you mean a hypnosis experience helping someone with this particular issue, just to clarify.
It could be with this, or it could be, with something traumatic of more broad, but whatever you feel is the right thing to do, and I'll just pretend to be the client in this case, so you can direct it at someone, but obviously it's for whoever's listening.
Okay. I can think of a example. I will say that this actually was with a female client rather than a male client. And what she was going through, she initially came to me because she was stuck in a narcissistic marriage. Her husband was doing all the things to her that are the hallmarks of a narcissistic relationship. He would love bomb her, he would gaslight her, he was emotionally and mentally abusive. And when she first came to me, she clearly wanted out, but didn't know what to do. She was trying to reason with him, which, as we know, anybody who's familiar with those kinds of dynamics, a narcissist can't be reasoned with. She was so emotionally worn down that she was pretty much, her definition of reality had been so skewed that she didn't know what to believe anymore or what to do. And as we worked together, it became apparent, and it came out, not in the first session, but apparently it came out, that she was being sexually abused by her husband as well. And when you have that overlap of narcissistic abuse and sexual abuse, the person may not even realize, the survivor may not realize that they're being sexually abused. And then they may get gaslighted after the fact. Oh, that didn't happen. Oh, you wanted it. You're overreacting. And they don't seek help for that. And usually when somebody might come to me for issues stemming from narcissistic abuse, the sexual abuse comes out later. Or someone will come to me for issues stemming from sexual abuse, and then come to find out that there was narcissistic abuse going on. So with this woman that I was working with, knowing that she wanted out, she had already made her personal choice. That's a personal choice. She wanted out of that marriage because it's not our place as hypnotists, therapists, counselors to make that call. So it became about working with her through parts work, through coaching, to at least find, as it turns out, her inner Wonder Woman, as that part of her came to be known, to stand up for herself, to assert herself, so that she can make her own decisions and make those choices that were right for her, to regain her self-trust, because that's what she needed. After what happens next is completely up to her. And we wound up doing 6 sessions together. And when I do these sort of sessions, there's longer intervals between as the later sessions go on, so that they have time to process the work, to take action based on what they've learned. By the time we met for our final session, she had moved out, found her own place, and was in the process of filing the divorce papers. And our last session was all about overcoming the fear and the potential pain of following through on that final step. And as far as I know, she filed for the divorce. She's completely cut the cord from her ex-husband. I did ask her if she wanted some assistance with moving on, knowing that she had been sexually abused in that marriage. And we did wind up doing another couple of sessions after that to work on the anxiety that she was still feeling, because she still had some concerns about future relationships and how her experiences with her ex-husband would affect her future relationships. So that's what it became about, is not only helping her stand up for herself to get out of her current situation, but to prepare her help her prepare for the next phase of her life, the life that she wanted.
Yeah, I mean that sounds really empowering. So if you want to do like a little bit of hypnosis, maybe for that final bit of kind of like feeling empowered, because I think that'd be useful for a lot of people that, and who hasn't had a difficult past, maybe not as difficult as that particular client, but almost like letting go of the past to feel empowered going forward might be a useful thing. So I'll put myself on mute and then over to you for a little hypnosis session.
Okay. And now I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable place to sit. And you can just sit there and look at a particular space, a particular point. Perhaps it's a spot on the ceiling, or perhaps an object in front of you. And sitting on that comfortable place that you're sitting, and you can notice the sound of your own breathing and listening to the sound of my voice, and really focus on that spot. And as you listen, look further into that spot. Notice that as you breathe more deeply now, and listening to the sound of my voice and focusing, you might begin to notice that when you reach that level of breathing that is right for you, the mind slows down. And when the mind slows down, you become more relaxed. And the more relaxed you feel, your breathing gets easier. And when your breathing gets easier, the better you feel throughout your body, feeling that good feeling. All the negative emotions in your body are being washed away by only good feelings, brought in by the sound of your breathing and my voice as you focus on that spot. That's right. Just continue to allow that. Listening to the sound of your breathing and my voice, your mind slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. And sooner or later, when you're ready, you can just allow your eyes to close. That's right. And continuing to enjoy this feeling that you're experiencing. Listening to the sound of your own breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. You may notice that with each breath that you take, you go deeper. That's right. Just focusing on the sound of your own breathing and my voice. Each breath takes you deeper and deeper and deeper. That's right. And as you go to that deep level that is just right for you, you can notice that there is a beautiful set of steps. There are 10 steps, and you can descend those 10 steps. And as you descend those 10 steps, you can go even deeper with each one as I count down from 10 to 1. Continuing to focus on your breathing and my voice going deeper and deeper with each breath as you descend this beautiful staircase. Counting down, going deeper on each step. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very deep. Going to that very deep level now. That's right. And now that you have achieved this deep level of trance and relaxation and hypnosis that feels so good, so wonderful, so relaxing, just this comforting feeling all over your body, you can know that there are different parts of you that serve a purpose in your life. Each part is important, has good intentions, and wants always what's the best for you. And somewhere deep inside of you, perhaps you already know what it is, perhaps not, but you can discover there is a part of you that is very powerful, that makes you a strong-willed person, one that gives you tremendous amounts of self-trust. And this is the part of you that brings out that part of you that brings you the most strength. And it can go by many names. It could be a Wonder Woman, or perhaps another superhero like Iron Man. That part can go by many different names. Take a moment to find, if you haven't already, find that very special part of you, that empowering part of you that gives you all of the inner strength that you need to carry on in your life, to advocate for yourself. Because this is your life, and this part of you gives you what you need to assert yourself, to protect your boundaries, because boundaries are important. This is a very important resource for you, and fully embrace that part of you. You can even reach out with your own arms if you want to, or not. That's okay too. Just really embrace that part of you. And you can know that that part will always be with you and can come to the executive anytime you need it to, when you need it most. And you can establish a line between that and your inner wisdom, or your highest wisdom, whatever it wants to call itself. Go ahead and take a moment to establish a direct line of communication between that strongest part of you and your highest wisdom, to give you all the power and ability you need to call that forth anytime you need it to. Make it as strong as it can possibly be. And when you feel that you have made these lines of communication as strong as they can possibly be, when the work is done, and only when it's done, you can come back to the room at a pace that is right for you.
That was a good experience there, Kevin. I like that.
You're very welcome.
So, is there anything that you would contextualize that, or what people should kind of expect or interpret from that session?
Well, this is about, everyone has that inner part of them that is, each part plays a role. And it's important to embrace that part of us that really serves that role of inner strength, that allows us to create boundaries, protect those boundaries, assert themselves, really empower themselves. And using that time to really establish that deep connection with our highest wisdom. By establishing a direct line of communication between those two, it can be a very powerful tool to really have an impact on one's unconscious mind. And when they make that connection in their unconscious mind, their conscious mind will become aware of that in the hours, days, and weeks ahead, the true impact of those changes.
Mm. I think a lot of people have had that experience even outside of hypnosis. They feel aligned with their intuition and they seem to kind of trust that kind of judgment, or they're second guessing every single part of their life. And I think that part for me is the kind of the wisest part of the intuition. It's kind of like, I know all of your experiences can guide you in a positive direction. Kevin, thank you so much for that. We're going to make sure that the link to your website is in the description in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you're working on in the future that you want to kind of sow a few seeds for people to expect? Maybe see you at any kind of upcoming conferences or anything?
Yes, I will actually be at Hypnothoughts in about a month from now in July. Looking forward to it. As far as future projects, I am currently working on making some recordings. I'm also have a possibility of producing a ebook about some of the issues that we've discussed today. And I'm also exploring different tools to work with clients, particularly those working with sexual issues or need coaching on some of the issues that they would like to work on or would like to further enrich their lives both in and out of the bedroom. And one of the things that I have learned in my journey is, and I'm going to clean this up a little bit, Melissa Tiers says it's all effing made up.
Mhm.
And when I first heard that, that really resonates with me. It throws open the doors to be as creative as we want to be as practitioners. And some of the things that I've learned in this industry are relatively new. Being very creative with the tools that are out there to put things together and make it our own and use what we have created to make our mark in our industry.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, I think I've published close to over 1,000 kind of hypnosis sessions now, maybe 1,500. And I came to the conclusion that it's just using the power of the imagination to create positive change. Because when you try and put too many labels about what hypnosis is and those kind of things, it's a whole rabbit hole of, but I disagree. And is it a trance? Is it not a trance?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, every human has an imagination, and sometimes that imagination can be used to create a new belief or a new way of thinking that, completely changes anything. And you used the word survivor before, and I think it's the ultimate reframe when something bad happens. It's kind of like, you can be the victim or you can be the survivor. It can break you or it can, facilitate you in some way to, become wiser and even stronger than ever before. And I think, utilizing all this stuff to help people is the core common denominator. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me as a guest hypnotist today. Your hypnosis session was great. And I, for one, will see you at Hypnothoughts. And if you're listening, by the way, and you feel like coming to Vegas to see me, to see Kevin, we're both going to be there at Hypnothoughts Live in Vegas. I'm also going to put a link in the description so you can get tickets to Hypnothoughts Live as well. Kevin, thank you once more.
Thank you, Adam. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.